Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. If you've been following this channel, you know we delve deep into the most unsettling true crime cases, bringing you meticulously researched accounts every single day. To our returning viewers, thank you for joining us once more. Your support and engagement mean the world. For anyone new, you've found a place where we explore each angle of a case, shedding light on details that often remain shrouded in the shadows. We post new stories daily at 6 p.m. Eastern, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to never miss an update. If you enjoy in-depth investigative storytelling, you're in the right place. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights always help drive meaningful discussions. Today we're stepping into a tragic case that shook a small Michigan community to its core. We're heading back to a crisp April morning in 2010, where a beloved mother, Venus Stewart, vanished under the most bewildering circumstances, right outside her parents' home. Let's dive into the unsettling hours leading up to Venus's disappearance, the dark truth that would eventually come to light. The early morning sky on April 26, 2010, seems unusually clear in southwestern Michigan. The sun has yet to crest the horizon, but a pale, glowing haze hovers over the quiet landscape. The Stewart family's home, nestled on a modest property in Colon Township, sits surrounded by towering pines. This neighborhood is no bustling metropolis. It's a place where people know each other's names, where a missing face is noticed within minutes. At this moment, there's a slight chill in the spring air. The grass is damp, the dew clinging stubbornly to blades that glisten under the faint exterior lighting. A silence stretches over the property, broken only by distant birdsong and the gentle rustling of leaves in a light breeze. End quote. Just before 7:30 a.m., Venus steps outside. She's visiting her parents, staying there for safety and support, as she works through an ongoing custody dispute and divorce proceedings with her estranged husband. Venus, 32 years old, is dressed casually, sweatpants, a comfortable hoodie, planning to send out a letter. Few cars pass by at this hour. Most locals are either already off to work or still nursing coffee inside their homes. The route from the front door to the mailbox is a short walk, one Venus has made countless times. But something about this particular morning feels off, as though nature itself is holding its breath. Inside, her parents are expecting to hear the creak of the door as Venus returns. They're waiting for her to come back and help get her children ready for the day. They assume she'll be inside momentarily, that this routine will be just like every other day. But minutes pass, stretching into a tense quarter hour. The front steps remain empty. No one sees Venus making her way back across the lawn. No familiar footsteps echo through the hallway. By 8 a.m., an uneasy sense of dread settles over the family. Venus is gone. In the hours before she disappears, Venus's routine is as ordinary as any parent's. She wakes up early, helps prepare breakfast, and tidies up after her young daughters. There's a calm determination in her actions, as she's focusing on the future. She's involved in ongoing court proceedings to protect her children from what she believes could be a dangerous environment if left alone with their father, Douglas Stewart. She spent much of the previous evening reviewing paperwork related to her custody battle, talking quietly with her parents in the living room, and ensuring her children's clothes were ready for school. Her father, Larry, recalls seeing Venus in the kitchen just after sunrise, sipping coffee and smiling at her youngest daughter, who had asked if Mommy could walk them to the bus stop later that morning. Around 6:45 a.m., Venus speaks briefly with her mother, Therese, about the mail she needs to send out, important documents related to her ongoing legal battles. She mentions that she'll head outside shortly. She takes her phone, but leaves other belongings behind, not anticipating any lengthy errand. To the best of anyone's knowledge, Venus does not leave the property that morning. Neighbors interviewed later recall seeing nothing out of the ordinary. One, who often sits near the window to watch early joggers or dog walkers pass, notes that the Stewarts' driveway seemed quiet. No strange cars were parked along the roadside. A friend who called Venus's cell around 7:20 a.m. gets her voicemail, but that's not unusual. Venus is often occupied with her daughters. Even the mail carrier, who arrives much later, remembers nothing unusual. Shortly after 8 a.m., Therese grows alarmed. Venus's absence is now stretching beyond normal bounds. Larry steps outside, scanning the surroundings, calling Venus's name into the morning hush. The mailbox is empty, the lawn undisturbed, save for what might be faint impressions in the damp grass. At first it's hard to tell if they're footprints or just random patches of flattened blades. The panic inside the house escalates. Vina would never leave without telling someone. She's responsible, fiercely devoted to her children, and fearful enough of her estranged husband's threats that she would not voluntarily go off alone. Larry paces the driveway, calling out again and again, voice echoing faintly across neighboring yards. Therese places the first call to the police just after 8:15 a.m. Her voice trembles as she explains the situation. Her daughter stepped outside to mail a letter and hasn't come back. She needs help immediately. Something is very wrong. Within 20 minutes, local officers are en route, lights flashing silently in the crisp morning air. The family's immediate reaction is disbelief, quickly giving way to fear. Neighbors gather in small knots, whispering anxiously. The first official conversation with law enforcement sets a tense tone. Officers knock softly on the door, speak in hushed voices, and take notes with furrowed brows. No one knows yet that this will become a national story. Perhaps Venus took a walk, or is around the side of the house out of view, yet deep down, her parents know something terrible is unfolding. In the hours and days to follow, people will remember how, on that morning, they first realized Venus was not simply late, she was gone. The fear and confusion in her parents' eyes are the first ripples of the tsunami that will come, as the small community braces for a reality too dark to imagine. Within those early moments, it's clear that whatever has happened is not an accident. Authorities begin piecing together timelines, collecting statements, and searching for any sign of Venus. The world of her family is about to be upended. What began as an ordinary morning now marks the beginning of a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. Before her disappearance, Venus Stewart leads a life defined by her resilience, warmth, and dedication to her children. Born in Kalamazoo, Michigan in 1978, she grows up in a family that values hard work, faith, and community support. Her childhood memories are filled with summer afternoons playing tag beneath the tall trees, winter evenings spent drawing sketches of her favorite cartoon characters, and weekends volunteered at local community events. Her parents, Larry and Therese, instill in her a sense of responsibility, teaching her to stand firm in her principles and never give up on what matters most. As a child, Venus is known for her gentle nature and kind heart. Teachers describe her as thoughtful, always willing to help classmates who struggle. She has a close bond with her younger siblings, whom she protects fiercely from playground bullies. Early on, it's clear that Venus is a nurturer, someone who puts others before herself. Her teenage years see her involvement in track and field at her high school, as well as drama club, where she surprises everyone with her articulate delivery and knack for understanding complex roles. She graduates from a local high school in the mid-1990s with solid grades and a reputation for reliability. She dreams of making something of herself, though she's not sure exactly what path to take. Nevertheless, she's committed to forging a stable and loving future for herself, and one day, for a family of her own. By her early 20s, Venus has enrolled in a community college to earn credits while working part-time at a nearby office supply store. She's passionate about helping people and considers a career in social work. Friends recall her discussing a desire to assist children in need, especially those going through difficult family issues. She wants to be a positive force, to ensure that every child has an advocate on their side. Eventually, she settles into a job that combines administrative work with small-scale community outreach initiatives. She's good at what she does, detail-oriented, patient, and a calming presence in the workplace. Venus's professional life is modest but steady. She never chases flashy titles or extravagant paychecks. Instead, she's content with roles that let her contribute meaningfully to the well-being of others. Over time, she builds relationships with colleagues who respect her diligent work ethic. Although she doesn't achieve high managerial positions or accumulate lofty accolades, those who know her describe her as the glue that keeps operations running smoothly. She dreams of one day returning to school to complete a degree in counseling, hoping to open doors to more impactful roles. She believes in bettering herself step by step, even if the journey is slow. With each passing year, Venus sets small, attainable goals, gaining certification in a new administrative skill, taking a workshop on family therapy techniques, or joining a local parent-teacher association to build networks and learn from others. Family is the core of Venus's world. She is married to Douglas Stewart for several years, and together they have daughters, who quickly become the light of her life. While the marriage sours due to escalating tensions, she remains steadfast in her role as a mother. Her love for her children is an anchor. Everything she does is in some way for them. After separating from Douglas, she moves in with her parents, seeking stability and safety. Her father Larry describes her as a fighter, someone who, despite heartbreak, keeps pushing forward. She prioritizes ensuring her children's well-being above all else. Those who know her see that every sacrifice, every late night spent prepping lunches or reading bedtime stories, is an investment in her daughter's future. In recent weeks, her extended family steps in to provide moral and logistical support as Venus navigates a contentious custody battle. Aunts, uncles, and cousins form a united front, hoping to shield her and the children from adversity. They exchange phone calls and messages throughout the day, coordinating schedules and offering emotional support. At family gatherings, Venus's absence, when it eventually becomes a permanent haunting void, will leave a wound that never truly heals. Before her disappearance, though, the family rallies around her, committed to doing whatever it takes to keep her safe. Outside of her family obligations, Venus cherishes a quiet social life. She meets a few close friends at a neighborhood park on Saturday mornings, watching their children play while they talk about life's ups and downs. She's active in a local church group, where she volunteers time to help with youth activities. On Friday nights, if she can manage it, she loves slipping into her running shoes and heading out for a short jog along nearby nature trails. There's something rejuvenating about those solitary moments. Just the wind, the foliage, and her steady breath. For hobbies, she tends to lean toward creative outlets. She sketches in a notebook, attempts simple watercolor paintings, and writes short stories to entertain her daughters. Friends recall that she loves crafting homemade birthday cards and decorating the house with hand-painted knickknacks. Her circle of acquaintances isn't large, but it's supportive and warm. Venus isn't the type to flit from one social event to another. She prefers more meaningful, deep connections. Many of those who meet her once recall how present she seems, how closely she listens, how genuinely she cares. Later, she said she asked her helper's daughter to describe her mother, and she couldn't do it. As we move closer to the day of the incident, it's clear that Venus Stewart is not merely a statistic or a name on a missing persons poster. She's a dedicated mother, a loving daughter, a determined advocate for her children's well-being. She's a person who, despite facing personal hardships, strives to create a safe and nurturing environment around her. The tragedy that is about to unfold will not only fracture a close-knit family, but will cut short the life of a remarkable individual who had so much more to give, to learn, and to love. On the day of the incident, April 26, 2010, Venus awakens before sunrise, as she often does. The house is quiet. Her children are still sleeping in the small guest room they share. She makes coffee in the kitchen, the warm aroma spreading softly through the home. Her parents, Larry and Therese, stir in their room, rising slowly from bed. The morning routine commences with comforting predictability. A quick shower, a light breakfast, a gentle kiss on her daughters' foreheads as they sleep. Venus plans to get them ready for school. She's thinking about the letter she needs to mail, an important legal document that might help strengthen her custody case. Every step she takes this morning is measured, purposeful. She's careful not to wake the children too early, intending to leave them to their late morning nap. There's no reason to alarm them or disturb their rest. Hopelessness can mark its woeful helplessness. Around 6:30 a.m. she checks her phone. A text message from a friend wishing her luck at the upcoming court hearing. A missed call from a relative the day before. Nothing urgent, but everything about her day is geared towards securing a better, safer future for her daughters. She gently prepares bowls for cereal, sets out their clothes, and talks quietly with her mother in the kitchen about the weather. Sunny, mild, a pleasant day ahead. As 7 a.m. approaches, Venus steps outside to breathe in the crisp morning air, anticipating a routine errand, mailing the documents. She checks the mailbox at the end of the drive and returns to the porch steps to ensure she's not missing anything. This is a small, mundane task, the kind of thing people do without a second thought. Yet on this particular morning, the atmosphere feels somehow charged. The slightest rustling of pine needles along the driveway might cause her to turn her head, just for a moment, but she sees nothing unusual. From about 7:15 a.m. onward, the timeline is painstakingly reconstructed from phone records, witness accounts, and what little surveillance footage investigators can locate. Between 7:20 and 7:30 a.m., Venus is believed to walk back outside with the letter in hand. She's wearing a light jacket over her hoodie, her hair pulled back, the sky is a pale blue, the birds are just beginning their morning chorus. She does not expect danger in her parents' front yard. She has taken precautions by staying at their home, believing it's safer than being alone. Multiple witnesses later report seeing a figure near the Stewart property around this time. One neighbor, who wishes to remain anonymous, recalls catching a glimpse of a person moving behind a row of bushes. This figure, the neighbor says, is dressed in dark clothing and appears to linger, as if waiting. Another witness, passing by in a car on a rural road, thinks they see a man in a hooded sweatshirt parked in a rental vehicle a short distance away. Although these sightings are vague, they later become crucial puzzle pieces. Phone logs show Venus's cell phone connects to the local tower at around 7:25 a.m., then no activity afterward. Surveillance footage from a convenience store half a mile away captures a grainy image of a suspicious vehicle around 7:40 a.m., heading west at a moderate speed. Investigators will later match the timing to a potential escape route. Friends try to reach Venus by text at 7:45 a.m., but by that point, her phone is silent. The last confirmed sighting of Venus is by her father, who glimpses her through the front window just before she steps outside. After that, the only signs of her presence are subtle disturbances in the grass, a dropped piece of paper that never makes it to the mailbox. Police later discover faint shoe impressions and what may have been signs of a struggle near the driveway, though these are too partial to confirm much. A neighbor's shaky home security camera, mounted too far away, offers a blurry outline of what might be two silhouettes grappling near the edge of the property around 7:32 a.m. It's difficult to discern details, but investigators note the time and the approximate location as significant. In those final minutes, Venus may have sensed something amiss. Perhaps she tried to hurry back inside, realized that someone was watching her from the shadows, or recognized a face she hoped never to see again. Evidence suggests she did not go willingly. A soft scream might have been muffled by a hand. Struggle marks in the damp soil indicate that she tried to fight back. In a heartbreaking twist, no one inside the house hears this altercation. The children remained asleep, her parents preoccupied in another room, thinking Venus would return at any moment. By 8 a.m., when her absence is noted, the frantic search begins. Therese calls out, stepping onto the porch, confusion turning to fear when there's no reply. Larry rushes outside, scanning the yard, calling Venus's name repeatedly, voice cracking. A sense of dread envelops the household. After several tense minutes, they dial 911 officers and alerting members of the public. The officers are on the way. The president reports very quickly. The first patrol car arrives by 8:35 a.m., its blue lights washing over the quiet suburban street. As the initial response unfolds, law enforcement sets up a perimeter. Officers knock on neighbors' doors, asking if anyone saw or heard something unusual. The morning sun climbs higher, illuminating a scene that should be peaceful but is now fraught with panic. Larry tries to remain steady, but his eyes betray him. He's terrified. Therese clings to hope that Venus will reappear, perhaps shaken but unharmed. Yet with each passing minute, that hope erodes. They find no immediate sign of Venus. No discarded jacket, no purse, no phone. It's as if she vanished into thin air. Detectives begin by documenting the scene meticulously, photographing shoe prints, collecting fragments of disturbed dirt. They bag a piece of torn fabric found snagged on a bush. Over the next few hours, the property is searched thoroughly. Officers walk shoulder to shoulder through the surrounding fields, homing in on several victims facing the same crime as theirs, calling her name. Volunteers begin to arrive, forming small search parties to expand the hunt beyond the immediate vicinity. Back at the station, the dispatcher fields calls from anxious relatives and friends. The media isn't yet aware of the situation, but that will change soon. For now, it's a local mystery, a beloved mother gone without a trace. It's the kind of case that rattles even seasoned officers, who have seen plenty but remain disturbed by the unnatural silence that now hangs over the Stewart home. As the day progresses, the authorities organize the investigation. The first steps are methodical. Contain the area, gather initial evidence, and document every detail. Officers speak quietly with the family, gathering basic information about Venus's schedule, her reason for staying with her parents, and her estranged husband's whereabouts. They ask if Venus had any enemies, any reason to run away. The family shakes their heads. No, Venus would never abandon her children. She was happy to be here, working toward a future free from conflict. As the local police continue their initial response, they manage their resources carefully. K-9 units are deployed within hours, dogs sniffing through brush and ditches. Helicopters are requested from the state police, who begin scanning the surrounding woods from above. The hope is that if Venus is still nearby, perhaps disoriented or injured, they can find her quickly. But the search yields nothing substantial. In the early hours, investigators note the position of every piece of evidence. They dust for fingerprints along the mailbox, search for DNA under overturned leaves, and photograph tire tracks near the shoulder of the road. Digital forensics experts begin examining Venus's phone records, her recent communications, and her social media activity for clues. Witness interviews commence promptly, neighbors recounting their morning rituals and whether they saw an unfamiliar car or person lurking around. By midday, the local news stations pick up the story. Reporters stand at the end of the driveway, microphones in hand, delivering updates. The community reacts with disbelief and concern. The Stewart family, in a brief, tearful statement, pleads for Venus's safe return. Meanwhile, the police keep working quietly behind the scenes, piecing together a narrative from the fragments of a life interrupted. Throughout the initial hours of the investigation, the sense of urgency never wanes. While the family is in shock, the officers methodically log evidence, interview potential witnesses, and begin to consider possibilities. The first news alerts pop up on local TV channels by late afternoon. Mother missing from Venus pavement, 2021. Thousands presumably were photographed on a city of Los Angeles. Thousands of people lodged in schoolhouses or workplaces created stress and massaged their knees. The broadcasts mention that she is locked in a custody battle, that there may be ongoing marital issues. Rumors begin to swirl, and in a small community, this kind of speculation travels fast. As the day stretches into evening, law enforcement widens its net, coordinating with state agencies. They generate a timeline of Venus's last known hours, meticulously noting each confirmed sighting, every call, every snippet of surveillance footage. They press neighbors and passing motorists to recall any suspicious activity. The authorities are under pressure, not just from the family, but from their own sense of responsibility. There's an unspoken understanding that as more time passes, the chances of finding Venus safe diminish. Venus's life before that morning is now center stage. Investigators sift through her background, looking for motives. They consider Douglas Stewart, her estranged husband, from the outset. He's not local, but he has a known motive. He's losing ground in the custody battle, and tensions have been escalating. Detectives begin making calls, verifying alibis, and tracing his recent movements. The first steps of this case may be painstakingly slow, but they are building the foundation of a complex puzzle. Hours turn into a day, and from that day, a week. Each moment that passes without news deepens the community's worry. The police remain focused, though. Early evidence and witness accounts will prove critical later. For now, they must gather and preserve every piece, hoping that somewhere in these details lies the key to finding Venus. As this case begins to attract regional attention, reporters phone in questions and family appeals air on local broadcasts. The media's role becomes essential, spreading her image, her name, in hopes someone might know something. The public's initial reaction is alarmed sympathy. Volunteers set up flyers, share her photo on social media, and hold small candlelight vigils. The Stewart family steps forward on camera to bring her back. These initial days of investigation and frantic searches are a pivotal period. Unknown to most, crucial clues are being unearthed, and all leads, no matter how minor, are documented thoroughly. Dr. Robin Wilson, Associate Professor of Health Sciences at Northeastern University in Lincoln, looks for insights into the murder of a man who was cleared to be dead. Venus's childhood, education, and professional life stand in stark contrast to what now unfolds. As investigators push deeper, they realize they must understand her life fully, her aspirations, her relationships, and her fears, if they are to solve this case. Everything points to a premeditated act, a carefully executed disappearance. The stage is set for a long and difficult investigation. The local community, once innocent and tranquil, now braces for the harsh reality that one of their own has been taken, and the perpetrator might still be among them. After initial searches yield few results, authorities move into more structured investigative strategies. They begin by reviewing every piece of evidence gathered on that first day: the scraped dirt by the mailbox, the faint shoe impressions in the grass, and any digital footprint of Venus's final communications. Officers coordinate with state and federal agencies. They create a missing person flyer with Venus's photo, distributing it widely. Tip lines are set up. Volunteers hand out leaflets at grocery stores and gas stations. The search radiates outward, from the immediate property to neighboring fields, then to nearby counties. Nothing is left unchecked. Behind the scenes, digital forensic experts analyze Venus's phone records, her last calls, the text messages sent and received the previous night. They check her email, her social media logins, searching for signs of impending conflict or secret plans. Soon, detectives uncover a series of increasingly hostile communications from Douglas Stewart. Court documents show that Venus had recently won a significant ruling in the custody battle, granting her primary care of the children. She had expressed fear for her safety, according to her parents. It becomes clear that Douglas, living out of state, might have a strong motive. The media picks up on this angle swiftly. As early as the second day, local stations report on the troubled marriage, the protective orders Venus had sought, and the looming custody hearings scheduled for the following month. Family members publicly say they fear Douglas is behind the disappearance. The police, maintaining professional caution, label him a person of interest but stop short of naming him a suspect. They need more than suspicion, they need evidence. As search parties continue to comb through woodlands and abandoned properties, investigators conduct interviews with anyone connected to Venus: friends, co-workers, neighbors. They all paint a consistent picture of a devoted mother determined to keep her children safe. They describe her estranged husband as increasingly distant, frustrated, and controlling after the separation. Police reach out to Douglas's acquaintances, old colleagues, and anyone who might know his whereabouts during the crucial morning hours. Physical evidence is scarce. The crime scene, if one can call the family's front yard that, is painfully minimal. No blood, no obvious signs of violence beyond the disturbed soil. But even the smallest clue can matter. They discover tire marks on a dirt road a few hundred yards away. fresh marks that could belong to a rental car. A check with local rental agencies leads them to a vehicle rented under a fake name, believed to have been used around the time Venus vanished. Receipts, surveillance footage from a nearby hardware store, and credit card records begin to build a trail. Technological aids come into play: cell tower triangulation, GPS data from car rental devices, and even analysis of digital camera metadata from neighbors' security systems. 2 weeks in, a significant breakthrough occurs. A piece of Venus's clothing is found discarded along a remote roadside. Forensic analysis matches her DNA. This grim find strengthens the case that Venus did not leave voluntarily. It's now a matter not just of finding her, but building enough evidence to arrest the prime suspect. The police consult with experts in abduction cases, seeking patterns. They consider the psychological profile of a perpetrator who would stage such a meticulous crime. Family and community members hold multiple press conferences, pleading for information. The media is full of speculation. The tension builds as the public rallies behind the Stewart family, donating time, effort, and even money to help fund search initiatives. Community members form Facebook groups dedicated to finding Venus, spreading her story far beyond Michigan's borders. The police issue new bulletins, share composite sketches of suspicious individuals seen in the area, and announce tip line expansions. It's digital footprints that yield the most decisive progress. Investigators find that Douglas Stewart used a series of prepaid cell phones to mask his movements. Location records show he made a trip to Michigan shortly before Venus disappeared, despite claiming to be states away. He attempted to log into Venus's email shortly after the time she vanished, an action recorded by the service provider. These digital breadcrumbs, combined with witness statements placing a suspicious vehicle near the Stewart home, start to paint a compelling picture. When Douglas's identity emerges as the key suspect, the investigation team digs into his background. He has no significant criminal history, but interviews with former co-workers reveal a pattern of controlling, manipulative behavior. A forensic accountant examines his financial records, noting suspicious withdrawals in the weeks leading up to Venus's disappearance. He had the motive. He was losing custody. He had the means. He rented vehicles under false names. Now the investigators search for the smoking gun, a piece of evidence that conclusively ties him to the scene and the crime. Despite progress, the team faces challenges. The body is not found, making a murder charge difficult initially. They struggle with limited jurisdictional reach when it comes to searching properties out of state. The complexity of digital evidence requires careful interpretation. Each day without finding Venus adds to the emotional strain on everyone involved. The detectives feel the pressure mounting, knowing that a strong suspect is out there. As frustration builds, they lean on specialists, profiling experts who analyze Douglas's psychological makeup, forensic anthropologists who advise on where a body might be concealed, and high-tech analysts who work to crack encrypted communications. They cross-reference rental car mileage with possible remote burial sites. Maps line the walls of their command center, with pushpins marking every lead. The bands picked up the sound of large shots. The community's patience thins, yet they remain supportive. Rumors swirl, but the police stay focused, methodical. Breakthroughs come in bursts, a suspicious purchase of duct tape here, a recorded conversation hinting at resentment there. Friends of Douglas begin to cooperate, recalling comments he made about not letting Venus take his kids away. By late summer, the investigation reaches a point where the evidence against Douglas Stewart is overwhelming. Although they have not recovered Venus's body, they can piece together a timeline supported by phone records, rental car logs, surveillance images, and testimony from multiple witnesses. She vanished during a time frame Douglas cannot properly account for. The car he used was seen in the area. Items connected to Venus were found along a route he is proven to have traveled. All these details coalesce into a case ready to move forward, legally. The investigative team knows that, without a body, a murder prosecution will be challenging but not impossible. Michigan law allows for murder charges without a recovered body, if the evidence is strong enough. They believe they have built a sturdy case. Meanwhile, the media coverage surges. National news outlets pick up the story, highlighting the plight of Venus's family and the quiet determination of the investigators. Experts speak on television about the rarity of no-body cases ending in conviction, but they also highlight that technology and forensic advances have improved the odds. It's with careful deliberation that law enforcement and prosecutors present their findings to a judge. Warrants are secured. Officers travel out of state to confront Douglas Stewart face-to-face. After weeks of round-the-clock work, the official order for his arrest is signed. The perpetrator they've profiled so meticulously is about to face the full weight of the law. Douglas Stewart's story begins simply enough. Born in the early 1970s, he grows up in a middle-class family in Indiana. Those who knew him as a child recall a quiet boy, somewhat introverted, who spent more time with machines and puzzles than with people. He performed adequately in school, excelling in subjects that required technical skill, but struggling in areas calling for empathy and understanding. As he grows older, his social interactions become more constrained. He's not known for close friendships or strong family bonds. Instead, he seems to drift, relying on superficial acquaintances. His educational background leads him into a technical field. After graduating high school, he completes a trade certification in computer maintenance and works a series of short-term jobs. Co-workers describe him as punctual and efficient, but aloof. He rarely attends company events or participates in group lunches. There's a pattern. He seeks structure and control in his environment. He saves money meticulously, invests in practical items, and avoids unnecessary social entanglements. Later, he meets Venus through mutual friends. At first, Douglas appears attentive if somewhat reserved. He seems drawn to Venus's warmth, her ability to connect easily with others. For a while, their marriage appears stable. They settle into a modest home, hold down steady jobs, and start a family. But cracks appear early on. Douglas grows controlling about finances, schedules, and household decisions. He dislikes spontaneity, insists on meticulous record-keeping, and bristles at any sign that Venus is slipping beyond his control. As the marriage dissolves, those who witness his behavior say Douglas displays jealousy, a tendency to belittle Venus, and an unwillingness to compromise. He becomes increasingly distant from her family and friends, avoiding gatherings and discouraging Venus from attending. After their separation, he doesn't date much or show interest in forming new relationships. Instead, he focuses on the custody dispute, seemingly fixated on winning at all costs. From a behavioral standpoint, Douglas presents as methodical, secretive, and vindictive. Profilers note his organized approach to crime, carefully planning each step, ensuring he leaves little evidence behind. His psychological assessment suggests narcissistic traits, a need for control, and a willingness to dehumanize others to get what he wants. He lacks empathy, seeing Venus and the children as possessions rather than individuals. After the crime, Douglas tries to cover his tracks. He switches cell phones, deletes emails, and poses as someone else to rent vehicles. He's careful not to use personal credit cards near the scene. Surveillance footage reveals a man fitting his description, wearing gloves, a hood pulled low. Experts say his behavior indicates premeditation. He disposes of items tied to Venus, ensuring there's no direct evidence linking her final moments to him. When questioned early in the investigation, he remains calm, offering vague alibis that can't be easily verified. He speaks in measured tones, showing no outward panic. Digital footprints, however, betray him. In the days following Venus's disappearance, Douglas attempts to log into her accounts, possibly to read emails or modify online records related to the custody case. Investigators track his movements through cell tower data, showing him traveling routes consistent with those where evidence turns up. He tries to blend into the crowd, return to a normal routine, but authorities notice changes in his behavior. He withdraws from co-workers, becomes irritable when asked about his travel, and shows unusual financial transactions, like withdrawing cash in increments to avoid digital detection. In the weeks after the crime, Douglas makes no public appeals for Venus's return. He doesn't reach out to family or friends to assist with searches. This absence of concern raises red flags. While the community holds vigils, he remains distant, offering no statements, showing no emotion. When confronted by investigators with preliminary evidence, he responds with deflection and denial. He claims to be hundreds of miles away, working on a project during the key hours, yet no one can verify his presence at the alleged site. Receipts and GPS logs are either missing or contradicted by other sources. Witnesses recall him making statements months before the disappearance, comments about how if he couldn't have the children, no one could. He speaks bitterly of the legal system, accusing it of bias. These remarks fit the profile of a man who might go to extreme lengths. The more investigators learn, the clearer his involvement becomes. He not only planned and executed Venus's abduction, but took steps to remove her permanently from the equation. Without Venus, the custody dispute ends. He believes he'll regain control, or at least exact revenge. His digital footprint shows searches for remote wooded areas, queries about how to disable GPS trackers, and suspicious online purchases. After the crime, he takes time off work, claiming sickness. Later, he moves out of his rental apartment abruptly. Neighbors remember him loading boxes into a car late at night. He leaves almost no personal items behind, as if trying to erase any trace of his past life. By the time the authorities close in, Douglas Stewart appears as a man cornered by evidence he believed he could outsmart. The carefully constructed lies crumble under forensic analysis, cell tower triangulation, witness testimony, and financial records. His attempt to cover all traces of his movement fails because the digital age leaves footprints everywhere. Each secret burner phone, each forged rental agreement, each piece of clothing discarded in a ditch eventually connects back to him. When law enforcement arrests Douglas Stewart, the booking process is swift. He's taken into custody on suspicion of murdering Venus. The initial hearing is closed to the public, but the media hovers outside the courthouse, cameras ready. Police present the overwhelming circumstantial and forensic evidence. His defense attorney appears stoic, advising him to say little. Meanwhile, the community waits, hungry for justice. During the trial, which garners statewide attention, prosecutors lay out their meticulously built case. They explain how, despite never recovering Venus's body, the evidence is so compelling that it leaves no reasonable doubt about Douglas's guilt. Witnesses testify about his controlling nature, his threats. Experts present cell phone records that place him near the Stewart home at the critical time. Surveillance footage, even if grainy, shows a vehicle like the one he rented creeping in the area. The defense tries to cast doubt, claiming it's all circumstantial. They argue Venus might have run away, that there's no proof Douglas harmed her. But the jury sees through these assertions. They understand that a mother devoted to her children wouldn't vanish voluntarily without a trace. The prosecution calls expert witnesses, behavioral analysts, forensic specialists, and digital data experts. Each piece of evidence is presented methodically. The jury listens attentively, watching Douglas's reaction. He remains expressionless, seldom meeting anyone's eyes. He doesn't testify in his own defense, understanding that cross-examination would be brutal. The defense relies on pointing out the lack of a body, hoping that seed of doubt will sprout into a not guilty verdict, but they underestimate the prosecution's narrative. Step by step, the puzzle is completed. Motive, opportunity, meticulous planning, and a series of damning digital clues. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberates. Tensions run high. Venus's family waits in a small room, clinging to each other's hands, tears in their eyes. They pray for a verdict that will provide some semblance of justice, even if it can never bring her back. After several hours, the jury files back in. The foreperson reads the verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder. The judge thanks the jury, who appear somber and relieved to have reached a conclusion. Sentencing follows shortly after. The judge speaks firmly, condemning the cold calculation with which Douglas acted. He's sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Venus's family steps forward to deliver impact statements, their voices trembling, describing the enduring pain of losing her and the children growing up without their mother. They talk about Venus's kindness, her bravery, and the empty seat at every holiday gathering. The court is silent except for the family's quiet sobs. Douglas stares straight ahead, unmoved. The legal process concludes, but the wound in the community remains fresh. People reflect on the case and what it reveals about domestic violence, custody disputes, and the importance of taking threats seriously. The Stewart family tries to move forward, raising Venus's children with love, teaching them about the mother who fought so hard for their future. The verdict provides closure in a legal sense, but it cannot heal all the scars. Instead, it becomes a point of resolve. Venus's name will live on as a cautionary tale and a call to action. The impact of Venus's murder reverberates through her family and friends for years. Larry and Therese, her parents, struggle daily with the loss. Their home feels emptier, the yard quieter. Each time they step onto the porch, they remember the morning Venus stepped out and never returned. Yet they persevere, seeking therapy and leaning on community support groups. The daughters, growing older, learn the truth about their mother's fate. They carry that knowledge alongside memories of her warm smile, gentle voice, and unwavering dedication. Extended relatives gather more frequently, ensuring the children feel surrounded by love. They share stories of Venus, recounting her kindness and resilience, hoping these tales will help shape the children into compassionate adults. Counselors, church members, and local charities form a network to provide emotional and financial support to the family. They understand that healing will take time. They offer counseling sessions, organize community dinners, and set up funds for the children's education. The family's life adjusts gradually to a new normal, one defined by absence but also by collective care. Over time, they learn to laugh again, to celebrate birthdays and achievements, knowing Venus would want them to find happiness despite tragedy. The community refuses to let this case fade into obscurity. Local organizations sponsor safety workshops, teaching neighbors how to stay vigilant and report suspicious activity. They create online forums to share resources about domestic violence prevention and legal aid. A park bench is dedicated to Venus's memory, placed beneath a shade tree near where she once jogged. Memorial runs and fundraising events are held annually, raising money for women's shelters and legal advocacy groups for victims of domestic abuse. Journalists who covered the story follow up over the years, highlighting positive changes that stem from the tragedy. Law enforcement agencies adapt their protocols, improving coordination during missing person cases. They invest in better digital forensic tools and train officers to recognize signs of escalating domestic disputes. Legislators respond to public pressure by reviewing policies related to restraining orders and custody cases. Small reforms take shape: improvements to protective order enforcement, new training for family court judges, and campaigns to raise awareness about the red flags of escalating domestic violence. Over time, these initiatives ripple outward. Other communities adopt similar measures, and awareness campaigns travel online across state lines. Victim advocacy groups point to the Venus Stewart case as an example of how tragedy can spur collective actions. For victims for domestic violence gain momentum. Some states re-examine their no-body homicide protocols, ensuring that individuals can be charged and convicted based on strong circumstantial evidence. This reduces the chance that perpetrators who hide victims' remains can evade justice. Legislative changes might include more rigorous oversight of custody arrangements, mandatory reporting procedures for suspicious behavior, and stricter penalties for violating restraining orders. Local police departments host seminars where domestic violence experts share knowledge with officers and communities alike. Websites and hotlines provide survivors with information, guidance, and legal resources. Over time, the dialogue shifts, from whispering about private family matters to openly discussing domestic abuse as a public health and safety issue. Venus's story remains a painful memory for her loved ones, but her legacy sparks conversations that protect other families. People learn to recognize warning signs, erratic behavior, obsessive control, threats. They encourage friends in toxic relationships to seek help, offering support and practical advice. The Stewart family, while grieving, finds purpose in these preventive measures. They know Venus's life wasn't lost in vain if others can be saved. As the years pass, the community looks back and sees a clear before and after. Before, it was a place where such violence felt distant, unimaginable. After, it is a place that learned the hard way that evil can lurk anywhere, even on a quiet morning in a safe neighborhood. Yet, it responded by coming together, seeking understanding, and making changes. That lasting transformation, though it can never restore Venus's life, honors her memory. It ensures that her story does more than haunt. It educates, motivates, and safeguards. We've reached the conclusion of today's exploration into the disappearance and murder of Venus Stewart. We've traced her life from her upbringing, through a tumultuous marriage, to the final tragic morning when she vanished from her parents' front yard. We've witnessed how law enforcement, family, and community responded, and how hard-won justice was eventually served despite the challenges of a no-body homicide case. We've seen the profound impact on her family, the sorrow etched into their daily lives, and the collective efforts to ensure no similar tragedy goes unnoticed or unchecked in the future. This story shows us that evil can arise in the most familiar settings, and that vigilance and community support are powerful tools. It also reminds us that victims like Venus are more than headlines. They are beloved daughters, mothers, friends, individuals who deserve respect, remembrance, and justice. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories. Your engagement helps us keep these important conversations going. If you found this case insightful, consider exploring related cases like the disappearance of Susan Powell or the murder of Lori Hacking, where determined investigations also pursued justice despite significant challenges. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. What lessons can we learn from Venus's story? How can communities better support victims of domestic violence? Let's continue discussing ways to help prevent such tragedies and honor the memories of those lost.